Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Rei-Lin, and I'm back from my rather inconvenient hiatus to bring you a new video. This time it's going to be a fairly short video, or as short as I can make it, on the Secret World Legends. I had a few people asking some questions on some of my other Secret World Legends videos about certain things that they were still unclear about. So I thought I would quickly jump in here and do a little video on answering, hopefully, some of those questions. The first of which was talking about the pips on the items. What do I mean by pips? The pips are these little dots. They're basically just an indication of how powerful the item is, with 1 pip being the weakest, 3 pip being the strongest. These drop randomly, or you can buy them from the auction house. The talismans, weapons, everything has 1 to 3 pips. When it drops, it's just a random, it's got 1 or it's got 3. There's really nothing more to understanding it really than that. But one of the questions came up, well, what do I do? If I've only got a 1 pip, how can I upgrade it to 3 pips? Right now, there's only one way that I know of to raise something from a 1 to a 3 or from a 2 to a 3, and that is by putting the item in here, going to the Fusion tab, and hitting this little plus sign. You're going to have to get out your wallets if you want to do it. This is the only way that I know to do it. You need any of these right here, depending on what you're trying to make 3 pip. You have 1 for glyphs, you have 1 for talismans, and you have 1 for weapons. And as you can see, it tells you exactly what it does. If it was a glyph would be crude at 1 pip, simple at 2, and intricate at 3. The talismans go from faded to luminous to radiant. And the weapons go from Mark 1 to Mark 2 to Mark 3. It's very expensive, as you can see. It's per item 2,500 Aurum, which you'd have to buy using real money. Now, if you don't want to buy it, there is a currency exchanger, and basically what you end up having to do is get things to sell it on the auction house, and then you can turn those into Aurum by exchanging your marks of favor for Aurum. Conversion rate is not very good, so it's going to take you a lot. It's going to take you a lot of marks of favor to get a lot of Aurum. But if you wanted to go completely free to play, you could do it. It would just take you a very long time. Now, as you're leveling, I wouldn't worry so much about the pips and all of that until you start to figure out exactly what build you want, whether it's damage, healing, or tank. And then once you figure that out, start looking at what stats you need for your gear for that build, and then start to run dungeons or open your daily boxes and hopefully get a 3 pip. If you cannot get a 3 pip of pretty much what you're looking for, or starting into around your mid 40s on level, I would probably just bite the bullet and buy it off the auction house if possible. 3 pips are generally kind of expensive, but it also depends on what talisman that you're trying to buy at 3 pips, or what weapon type you're trying to get at 3 pips. Everyone has sort of like the perfect one for, depending on what kind of bonus that the weapon or the talisman has. It's up to personal preference as far as what you're looking for, but I wouldn't worry whether it's a 1 or a 2 or a 3. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge difference between a 1 and a 3. It is a difference, and by the time you added up everything, if all my gear were all 1 pip versus all of my gear at 3, there's probably a 3 or 4% difference in the stats that it would give. But it's not going to mean, it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the game and go forward in the game. So 1 to 3 pips, you can only use basically money to get it from 1 to 3. As of right now, you have to use Aurum in the shop to upgrade it. As far as what stats, every one of these talismans has 3 different stats. You either have magical and physical protection, like you see, and attack rating. You have a lot of magical and physical protection and health, and then the third type would be magical protection, physical protection, and heal rating. Those are the only 3 stats that are ever going to be on any of these talismans Weapons generally don't have that. It might have some heal rating. Um, Usually the weapons are, as you see, of energy. It does a little something extra. So when I use a power ability, I have a 22% chance of consuming 1 less energy. It's kind of useful. There are other ones that could be more useful depending on what you're going for. But generally, you have Radiant is what you're going to need as a 3-pip. Radiant is as good as it gets. And then, of course, you have your glyphs that go in there. You have your signets that go in there. And those can also be upgraded, into intricate, into Radiant glyphs and things like that, just like I showed you in the menu right here. You can get your glyph, from crude to simple to intricate. So intricate is as good as the glyph will get. So that is what you're going to look for. If you're wanting to go full glass cannon, obviously you're going to go all attack rating on every piece that can give you attack rating, but realize that you're not getting much magical or physical protection. You will be a glass cannon. You will die very much more than if you take a few pieces that give you some health. Usually at the very end game in the raids and stuff like that, you're looking to try to get at least 10,000, if not a little bit higher on your health. So you might have to play around with what items are going where. Usually the head is the best thing to upgrade first because it has the biggest stat boosts, and then then the necklace, and then your rings, and your on down the line here. So these are more like major talismans. They used to be kind of like major talismans and minor talismans. So don't worry so much, like I said, about the pips. Just worry about finding something that is going to work for your build and start to upgrade it. If you decide to keep it later on, you can always spend the money or the Aurum and make it 3 pips, or not even worry about it at all. The pips don't change anything enough to worry your head about. And then of course you have to decide whether you want to be glass cannon, or maybe you want some like me where I have a couple here that have health, just so I'm not completely glass cannon and still have quite a bit of punch when it comes to doing damage. That pretty much wraps that up for the pips and what you're looking for on the stats. Those are the 3 main stats. Those are what the pips do. That's how you upgrade them. As far as a build idea goes, I'm a shotgun and fist. I am shotgun and fist because fist gives you healing, and it gives you heals over time. It can also give you warmth as a passive skill, which gives you even more healing. Or you can change it and be a straight up DPS monster, or you can be a straight up healer. So fist is very well rounded. Now shotgun is, in my opinion, very well rounded also, but it tends to lean more towards a tank weapon with a lot of burst potential. And just to quickly go over what I'm doing with my shotgun is I use reconstituting shells as one of my skills. I use raging shot, which is pretty much the biggest hit you're going to do with a shotgun. It does a massive amount of damage. The closer you are, the more damage it does. If you're within 3 meters, this passive skill will kick in, that I'll get to in just a second, and do even more damage. I use both barrels, which is a conal forward aiming attack. See, it shoots in a cone. So if I have to back away from multiple things, I can just keep shooting. It does use your energy. It uses 3 energy, so keep it in mind that you are using energy to back away and shoot, which means that you'll have less energy for your raging shot. And then I use full salvo. Full salvo is basically your ultimate attack. It's your elite ability. It does a cone in front of me 5 times. It does take a shell each time, and it does need 4 energy to use it, but it does a lot of damage, and each shot can critically hit. Full salvo does a lot of damage. You could take bombardment, which is basically an AoE version of full salvo over 10 seconds. Kneecapper is more for the tanks. I also have one basic ability, and that is scatter shot, which is pretty much both barrels, but it doesn't cost you anything. It still uses a shell, but it doesn't cost you any energy. This is what you use as your auto attack when you have no energy. You could take, if you know you're just going to be fighting one thing, you could take pump action, which does basically double the damage, consumes 1 shell, but it is also a basic ability. So that is basically the build, and of course, once you get to the top of the tree, you want to put as many points into your capstone as you can, because it gives you bonuses to everything. Passive skills, I've got all shotgun abilities here. Blast barrels increases the damage of my both barrels. Very useful. Point blank shot. It makes raging shot go up to 4,005 physical damage. That's fairly significant. Even if the only thing you do is critical hit on a raging shot, you're going to do 8,010 damage. You're basically going to do double damage. It's pretty crazy. A lot of monsters can't take that much punishment, and especially if you can do it 3 times in a row, you're going to do a lot of damage. Odds and evens, very important, I think. Your basic abilities do 70% more damage if you have an odd number of shells loaded. Your power abilities, which Raging Shot is, will do 15% more damage on an even shell. You have 6 shells, so your opening should be Raging Shot, and it's going to do 15% more damage. Then you would do a basic shot to use that one, so it does 70% more damage, and then so forth. And you just kind of, you Raging Blow, Raging Shot, Scatter Shot, Raging Shot. You just go back and forth. Restorative Reload. When I reload my shotgun, I heal 6%. You're reloading constantly because everything that you use with your shotgun uses your shells. Every time you reload a new shell, you heal 6%. It's very useful if you get into a situation where you need some health. You can pop restore reconstituting shells. Generally, if you have full shells, it's going to give you pretty much a full heal all the way back to the top. If you needed more on top of that, as soon as you use reconstituting shells, you're automatically going to reload anyway, so you get another 6% heal. It's very powerful. You become very tough in a lot of situations. And then Withering Salvo. Every time I use my full salvo, each consecutive hit does 40% more damage. So every time I use my elite, every hit does 40% more base damage. If you wanted to have more healing, you're going into a real tough area and you think you're going to need it, you could switch out one of these passives on the shotgun. I would take Warmth for the fist weapon. Warmth, basically every time I heal, you get another heal over time. It only lasts a couple seconds, but it does stack to 5 times. So if you know you're going to be wading into the fray, you could stack this outside of combat because your energy comes back extremely fast out of combat. You could stack this and then go wading in, and for 2 or 3 seconds, you're going to be really hard to even kill or take any damage because it's just going to heal you over time, and then Warmth is going to kick in and also heal you basically another time. So that is basically the build. That is what the passes I use on my fist, on my shoddy, my active abilities on my shoddy. I don't use any active abilities on the fist, just the heal. I use Feral Regrowth. You could even use Regeneration. They're both good, but this is a 20-second cooldown, but it does remove detrimental effects, things like that. So it's kind of up to what the situation is that you're going into, if you need more healing or you want more offense. I'm semi-glass cannon. I'm not full glass cannon. As I showed, still have a couple of pieces that give me health. But just to show you kind of how I do here, full salvo. If you need to, you can start a fight with it. As you see, it completely destroys everything. When you reload, the most important shells, and I can show you exactly where that is, you go here, and it explains what your shells do. If they're green shells, anima infused, you heal 3% every time you shoot something. If it's dragon breath shells, which is what these are, the fire, it puts a dot on them, and it stacks up to 6 times. Depleted uranium shells are the purple shells. Those basically do an extra hit based on your combat power. Those are the most useful if you're really trying to burst something down. It includes if you use Raging Shot or any skill, it's going to double hit. It's not going to do the exact duplicate of your hit. It's still based on your combat power, but it is a significant amount of damage. And the blue shells are armor piercing, have a 50% chance to apply exposed so that you do even more damage, but that is useful if you have multiple people and you're in a group, because that means everybody in your group is going to do more damage. You want to start off with the Raging Blow because it is an even number of shells, and then you just alternate back and forth. And you see the kind of damage that this thing can do. Even the basic ability can hit really hard when it crits. It's not the single target, so even this, when I hit and it crits and does 2,500, you'd probably do an extra 700 or 800 if you took the single target basic ability. I like having this because if I run out of energy in like a dungeon, or I group up a lot of enemies, because there are a lot of times where you're going to want to group up enemies in big groups and then mow them all down at the same time. If I don't have the energy to do anything, I'll just be standing there. I won't be able to use. I mean, my basic ability will be single target, and I'll have 7 things beating on me where I could just be shooting them all and doing pretty damn decent damage. Because every time you crit, also remember, every time you critically hit, you do gain back 1 energy, even if it's a basic ability. So if I shoot into a crowd of 6 things and crit on 3 of them, I'm going to get 3 energy back. So it's pretty nice in that regard. So again, I didn't start off with the right ability. I should have started off with raging, but it's okay. You can alternate, just as long as you know how many shells you got left. Now see, there, you get to choose. Reload, I just healed a little bit. So pretty much any damage that guy would have just done to me, just completely erased pretty much in 1 reload. And the double hit, if you watch, bam, did 954. I did almost 1,000 more damage just from shooting. So that's pretty significant. I mean, it's close to whatever your combat power is. So 854, and it will crit. So like I said, you have the potential to do a crap ton of burst damage with your shotgun, because you could do up to 3 raging shots in 1 go, because you have 15 energy. It takes 5 per shot, so you have the ability to do a lot of damage. So keep that in mind. You're not necessarily a sustained damage machine, but you can crit so much with such big hits that it's very easy to actually keep aggro on something. A lot of times I can keep aggro on monsters just from doing my basic rotations, and I don't have to worry that somebody's going to pull aggro off of me unless they're really going all out. And I'm not even a tank. So I'm more or less a hybrid DPS tank build with what I've got. And most likely I'll go a little bit more glass cannon. I'll probably drop one of these healths out to get a little more damage on top of that. But remember, you're also upgrading all these pieces. Everything is going to go through the same upgrade class. It's going to be gray, and then it'll go green, and then it'll blue, and then purple, and then yellow, and then red, which is your legendary. This is the only legendary I was finally able to get it upgraded on my weapon. So you got a long way ahead of you to get to this stage, especially if you're not going to spend money. This is Wallet Warrior territory here, and you can see even with that, I've only got 1 max level piece at the moment, and this isn't even as high as I can go. And this still has to go up to legendary. So it's a long way from me being completely maxed out with a set of gear that's completely legendary. So it's going to take you a while. That's why I said don't worry so much about the pips and all of that. Just try to find the gear that works well for your build. Obviously, there's glyphs that will help out. You want hit rating, you want crit rating. I could go over all of this later on in another video if people are still confused. But you see the signets increase the damage of my healing of shotgun elite abilities. The damage and healing of shotgun elite abilities increases the damage and healing of shotgun power abilities. So there's glyphs and signets that go with every weapon type in the game. So while this one is increase the damage and healing of shotgun basic abilities, if I look down here, I have one in here that increases the damage and healing of hammer elite abilities. So I've got a mythic hammer here, and so I was building a set to use with the hammer as well, and it's even more bursty, if you can believe that, than the shotgun. It's sustain and its healing leaves a lot to be desired. And anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I didn't want it to get too crazy long. I just wanted to explain what I meant by the pips, give you an idea of what the upgrade tree is, and show that you need to use the Aurum to get it from 1 to 3 pips, which may not be for everybody. So you don't really need to go crazy worrying about the pips, especially in the early game. Just run your daily dungeons, do your dailies, get the reward bags that you get for all your dailies, and eventually something's going to pop out of here that's going to be 3 pip. Hopefully it'll be something that you can use. And if not, there's always the auction house. You can always get what you want from the auction house as long as you have the money for it. That money will come in slowly but surely as you do your dailies. You can see I've got 221k. I wouldn't pay more than 20 to 40k for any one piece of talisman gear at 3 pips. It's just not worth it. But that's obviously my own personal experience with it. Anyway, if you have any more questions, please don't be afraid to leave them down below the video. Ask me more questions. That's my shotgun build. I do use the fist there, but only the one ability to heal in emergencies with feral regrowth. So you can play around with that. If you need more healing, you can take a couple of other heals from the fist weapon tree. You could drop reconstituting shells for a different fist weapon heal. You can also reverse it. You could go melee if you really like the claws and the Wolverine thing. You can make your fist weapon your main and go healing with the shotgun. It does have the option to be heal or very defensive with defense buffs and things like that for you and your party. So it's very flexible when it comes to these two weapons kind of trading off back and forth on usefulness for offense or defense. So anyway, if you have any more questions, like I said, please just leave a comment down below, or better yet, you can check me out on Twitch. I do live stream now. I'm hopping around to different games when something new comes out, or if some new patch hits, I'll tend to gravitate back towards playing those games just to see how they are, see if they're worth going back to. I've been doing a lot of Blade and Soul, and of course, since Destiny 2 came out on PC, I've been playing the crap out of that and streaming it. So you can check me out on Twitch. Whether I'm playing Secret World Legends or Blade and Soul or World of Warcraft or whatever I'm playing, I don't mind people asking questions, even if it's not the game that I'm playing. If I can answer the question, I'll answer it. If it's confusing, I might be able to stop in the middle of that game, switch to the game, and point out and show physically on the screen what's going on and why I'm doing something a certain way, just to help out. That's kind of why I'm streaming, is to get people to be interactive in the chat and have a little bit of fun. If there's any confusion, I want to try to sort that out. Anyway, link will be down below in the description for my live stream. I stream almost every night in the evenings, Eastern time, between 7:30 Eastern and midnight, 1 in the morning. If I can't, I basically have a Twitter account that I also tweet out what I'm going to be streaming ahead of time, or if I can't stream, I let everyone know as soon as I can. But if you have any other questions, like I said, comment here, check me out on my stream, and ask questions there, and I will be happy to help out as much as I can. Anyway, that's going to do the video. If you liked it, please press the like button down below. It does help out my channel. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, you can click at the bottom of your screen, and that'll get you all the latest updates every time I post something new to my YouTube. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody. Take care, and I'll talk to you all next time.